My fellow Bahamians, I greet you in the spirit of patriotism, unity, and solidarity. This Sunday, October 11th, 2020, is indeed one of the first Sundays in a long time that we've experienced these lockdowns. It has been since March of this year that we've seen for the first time in our country this dreaded COVID-19. The virus has taken the lives of more than 100 Bahamians to date. It has hospitalized countless more and has infected thousands across the nation. For the most part, many infected by this virus in our nation have recovered and are successfully on their way back to some degree of normalcy. We must thank, by and large, our healthcare professionals and those who work in the medical field. They are the real heroes who have fought on the front line against this virus. They have done a yeoman's job. I tip my hat to these workers. They could have left us all alone. They could have left the battlefield. They didn't have to stand and fight. They didn't have to care for our sick. These brave warriors, some who have even fallen, fighting for us, we owe a debt of gratitude. I thank the healthcare workers for all that they have done and for all that they will continue to do. Our nation owes you a debt of gratitude. The first wave of COVID-19, we battled against it with many restrictions, including lockdowns during the week and on weekends. Only essential workers were being allowed to move about for a period of time. There were specific days in which you could go to the grocery store. So many restrictions were involved with the first wave. These restrictions, I believe, for the most part, worked very well in alleviating the spread of the virus throughout New Providence and the Family Islands. We did a very good job in the first wave. Minimal life was lost, but needless to say, one life lost is one life too many. And so we must remember those who have fallen. We must thank God for their time on this earth and for the precious memories that we would have all had as a result of their being in our lives. As I said, we did well against the first wave. As we wind down the first wave, we began to reopen the economy and ease restrictions. Therefore, domestic travel, we began to allow domestic travel again. We eased the lockdowns, and we allowed more movement throughout the island of the Providence and the Family Islands. We began a phased opening of the Bahamas, allowing therefore for international travel and for the tourist market to reopen. During this reopening of the economy and the relaxing the restrictions throughout the Family Islands of travel, the second wave of the coronavirus entered. This wave certainly was far more dangerous than the first. Persons were testing positive, asymptomatic, with no symptoms at all for the virus. So it was difficult for one to know if they were experiencing the COVID-19 virus if there were no symptoms. This being the case, we beefed up on testing and tried our best to adhere to the protocols so as to ensure that this COVID-19, the spread, would be lessened. As we did all of this through this second wave, COVID-19 had its way as it moved through island to island. At one point, we had Grand Bahama was the main area. Then we had Nassau, and of course, Abaco. We have done a significant job thus far, but one of the major and most important tools that we must use in this battle against COVID-19 is personal responsibility. Each individual must take responsibility for himself and his family. Yes, the battle will be collective. Yes, we will have to ensure that we are all on one accord and unified in the fight, but we must be unified in our individual effort to ensure that we are responsible during this period. Needless to say, that we must take serious the quarantine rules. We must take serious when one is diagnosed or has a positive test for COVID-19. It is imperative that if you test positive, to say to the healthcare professionals, if you do not have a room within a home that you can be able to quarantine, if you don't have private bathroom facilities at your home, it is imperative that you inform the healthcare professionals. We are duty bound to ensure that this COVID-19 does not spread throughout the length and breadth of the Bahamas. If you have come into contact with someone that has tested positive, it is imperative that you quarantine and that you make yourself available to the healthcare professionals for testing and for further examination. These are the personal responsibilities of which I speak. We must be responsible in every way. We must avoid these large crowds. We must not participate in parties. We must not go to these beach functions. Until we get the all clear Until we are informed that it is safe, it will be difficult to beat back this second wave if we are not taking personal responsibility. This wave, I am certain that we will defeat as well. We are aware that there is an impending third wave. However, we are more knowledgeable now than ever before. And knowledge, my friends, is power. We must use this knowledge as another weapon in our arsenal against this invisible enemy. We must use our knowledge to meet this enemy and to defeat this enemy. It is imperative that we adhere to the protocols that have been working in our interests, that has been assisting us in this fight against COVID-19. We must do all that we can to ensure that not just ourselves, but our families, our friends, and our loved ones are safe as we go through this very difficult time in our country. My fellow Bahamians, COVID-19 conditions have indeed caused tremendous economic difficulty. This economic difficulty has not been seen anywhere in the world since the Great Depression. We saw rough times during the Gulf War, which lasted some 7 months. This war began August 2nd, 1990, and ended February 28, 1991. This had a major effect on travel as Americans chose nationally to stay in the US as opposed to travel. Other nationals did the same. This had a major effect on our tourism industry, which some at the time indicated had gone on life support. We experienced difficult economic times again after the September 11, 2001 bombing of the Twin Towers in New York. Again, an almost complete halt in travel. This crippled our tourist market. Even though we experienced these two very difficult economic periods, neither of these events would have had the devastating impact on our country as COVID-19. Not only did COVID-19 affect America and the Western world, but it shut down the entire globe. Luckily for us, in these times, government was able to use fiscal policy to the benefit of the people. Automatic stabilizers kicked in, such as NIB, such as benefits from various job contracts, union agreements. Social welfare nets came into full effect as social services doubled down on its effort to assist the needy. And the government of the Bahamas invested $1 million a week in a national feeding program to assist persons who needed food during this time. I also would like at this time to note that while throughout the world governments have experienced major difficulty with even being able to keep their staff, the civil servants or persons working for governments in various parts, very difficult to keep them on and to pay them. We in the Bahamas have not experienced this. Since March of this year to date, the government of the Bahamas has paid every civil servant, whether they were permanent and pensionable or on contract. Not one government worker was fired, and not one government worker was laid off. This is a marvelous achievement. I tip my hat to the Honorable Minister Peter K. Turnquest for the tremendous job he and his staff have been doing in ensuring that the civil servants of this country collect their wages monthly without interruption. This is indeed good news for our country, good news for our people, and we want the government to continue. My fellow Bahamians, while unemployment in the Bahamas has reached the levels of 40-some%, in the United States of America, unemployment has jumped from 5% to 20%. And just last week, 28,000 more were added to the unemployment line in America as Disney, a major tourist provider to the world, let go 28,000 workers. Our tourism industry as well has been hit and hit hard. Atlantis and Paradise Island and Bahamas and Cable Beach are both closed at this time. Minimal staff is there to have the property upkeep and to ensure that the property is ready for reopening in short order. Workers in the industry are in a state of uncertainty, as no one can tell us when these properties will reopen. Some of the workers, indeed a small number, have decided that they wish to be made redundant. And in making this request, they decided to demonstrate at the Paradise Island Bridge and later at the park, and attempting to go to the Parliament. I state that I can say that he who feels it knows it. I can say that these workers may be indeed experiencing a very difficult time in our country. And this difficulty has led them to do what they think is the only thing to get the attention of the authorities. I want to remind these workers that we are all in this together. I want to remind these workers that we are with you. But while I share in your grief and in your pain, I must ask you and I must call on you to please be patient. And while I ask you to be patient, I'm asking for the authorities to help these workers, to please lend assistance to these workers. I think it is also important for me to admonish these workers not to be misled by political mercenaries seeking to advance personal agendas only for their own personal profit. We've been down this road before, and I beg you, let us not go down this road again. You have a genuine concern. People in this country are with you. People in this country will support you. They will help you. But I can tell you, the political mercenaries and these political operatives who only seek to line their pockets will not get our support. I am sorry. This is not the time to send the wrong message to potential investors and to the tourist market, which is getting ready to reopen. This is not the time to send the wrong message to the world. Our country is not in chaos. Our country is stable. And we will get through this. This too, my friends, shall pass. 50 or less disgruntled workers cannot represent the whole 12,000 plus persons. While those of you who wish to be made redundant, who want to have your pay packet, we would wish that everything is done to settle with you and to give you your entitlement. We understand that the competent authority has put in place the orders that restricts companies from paying out redundancy at this time. We understand that. However, we call on those in authority to assist, to satisfy those persons who wish to be made redundant. Having said that, I want to say to the workers of this country, I would rather have Atlantis and Bahamas here in the Bahamas. I would rather Bahamas and Atlantis take workers back on in stages rather than close down permanently, sell off properties, or go into receivership. We must be mindful and we must be considerate about the well-being of the nation when we act. Our actions affect the body as a whole. I'm happy to announce, as it has been done in the press, that Atlantis has accessed new monies, additional capital, and they will be allowing workers to apply for vacation, which will assist during this period And so those persons who wish to get their vacation or have a vacation at this time or access funds through this vacation package, I would admonish those and ask them to go to the Atlantis property and file for their vacations so that they can have this money made available to them. I will ask the government to further engage the union in all of the discussions with Atlantis and Bahamas. The tripartite system still works: the government, the union, and the investor. It is at this time only good sense to do this. Make sure that all parties have the information, that they are able to speak intelligently to workers, that they're able to participate and to share with the employer what is happening and to see what can be done to mitigate against unnecessary hardship of their employees. The government must, the Ministry of Labor must, the Minister of Labor must sit with the union. This is the legitimate representative of the people. They cannot be left from the table. They must be a part of the discussion. And so I implore the government of the Bahamas to ensure that the union and the union's leadership is a part of these discussions. I also ask Mr. Darren Woods to step up his game, to come to the Bahamian public, come to your membership and speak to them. If you're unable to speak to them in meetings, we now have various formats and platforms for you to be able to speak to your membership. There's Zoom, there's the Facebook platform. There are all different ways. We still have ZNS, we still have the radio stations, but we wish for you to keep your membership informed, even using WhatsApp. Keep your membership informed so as to discourage this unnecessary actions of demonstrations. My fellow Bahamians, I come to a point where I must appeal to the government of the Bahamas on behalf of many, many Bahamians. We must implement a national plan for the suspension of rent, mortgages, and loans in excess of $10,000 for 2 years. This must happen sooner rather than later. I repeat, I call on the government to implement a program that would suspend immediately rent, mortgages, and loan payments for loans in excess of $10,000. I implore the government to engage the financial sector, i.e. banks, credit unions, and other lending institutions, to join them as willing partners in an initiative such as this. We must save our people from undue hardship, which has come about by no fault of their own. We must seek to allow our people to live even in these difficult times with a degree of dignity. We cannot allow for mass evictions and mass foreclosures of properties that people have been paying for long periods of time. We cannot allow persons to be brought before the courts for funds that they do not have. And so I urge the government to implement urgently the plan to suspend rent, mortgages, and loans in excess of $10,000 for 2 years. And if persons are able to prior, they can settle these rents or mortgages. They can begin to pay at an earlier time. My fellow Bahamians, while the tourist sector recovers, we must aggressively promote domestic tourism. This will assist local businesses and business people in Grand Bahama, Abaco, and our family islands. We must support each other in these difficult times. We must take advantage of this opportunity in this downtime to learn something new, to go back to school and to study some area that you would have wanted to do for such a long time. We must use this time wisely. Those of us who are writers, we must write. Write books. Write about COVID-19. Write about these economic difficult times. Write poems of how beautiful the birds chirp and how quiet and tranquil the island is while we are in lockdown, and how nice the breeze feels that blows, that has no fossil fuel, and all of the emissions are in it. A clean breath of fresh air from time to time. Those of us who write poems, write poems. Tell your story. Write books. Who knows, a bestseller may be in the making. Do not waste this time. It is imperative that we do. Take this opportunity to learn more about the computer and the technology that is available to us. Many of the parents are now going to be asked to assist their children as they go on these virtual platforms at school. You must be able to assist them, and to be able to assist them, you must be able to operate the computer properly. I think that it would benefit you and the child. I think it would be of great benefit to all of us. And so I implore you to become more acquainted with the computer and its operations. My fellow Bahamians, I speak now directly to our youth. I ask you to get involved at every level in this country. This is your time. This is your time to come to the fore. Your leadership and your talents are needed now more than ever. Travis Robinson changed the norm 3 years ago. More of you must take the stand to assist in the growth and the development of your country. Many of the solutions to the problems that we presently have, I know that your wonderful minds possess those solutions. I implore you, young people, to become the change you wish to see. My fellow Bahamians, the era of information and the movement of information in such speed is now. So it is easy for misinformation as well as the correct information to get out with a snap or the touch of a button. The snap of a finger or the touch of a button. Therefore, I implore all of the government agencies to follow the lead taken by Minister Marvin Dames. Last week, I had the occasion to listen to the report from the Minister of National Security live on ZNS, where the leadership of every agency, of every department in the Ministry of National Security gave reports. I learned last week the COVID-19 task force team that they move about and that the police officer is in every COVID-19 vehicle. So as to whilst the COVID-19 task force is advising you to adhere to the protocols and to follow the rules, that the police is there for enforcement if need be. We learned of what the Defense Force is doing at this time on the sea to assist with this situation of COVID-19 and poachers and so on and so forth. We learned at the prison that some 60 plus prisoners have been recommended to the Governor General for consideration for early release due to the fact that many of them, some of them may be vulnerable to this COVID-19. That was certainly good news to hear, that those persons who are indeed no threat to the community have been or are going to be released in short order. And those persons, particularly, I believe some of the elderly, will be home so that their families can take care of them and help them through this time. This is good news. And I am telling you that the press conference was most informative. And we need more information to be going through the process whereby you have the leadership of these various departments speaking directly to the people. I can tell you, my friends, that while we seek to have the correct information out there, we also must know that there are persons who are busy with political mischief. Those persons we must call on to cease and to desist. My friends, I am further advised that this week the Prime Minister of the Bahamas was visited by the Pan American Health Organization. At this time, the Prime Minister invited the leader of the opposition, who I am told decided that he would not attend. I call on the leader of the opposition to cease and desist in this effort to divide our country. At the polls, people can vote what they like. But whilst we fight this COVID-19, we want to see our leaders on one accord. Should the leader of the opposition choose not to continue in his capacity for whatever reason, he knows what is the right and proper thing to do. Certainly, a Glennis Hannah Martin or Chester Cooper would do wonderful in the role as leader of the opposition. Continue with this division in COVID-19. We need our government, which is the government of the Bahamas and the opposition. They are the government together, and they must work together. This is where we see maturity and where we see real leadership. And so I invite the leader of the opposition to rethink his position as he moves forward. I hope that I will not have to speak to this matter again. I'm advising that we continue to speak with one voice, one message. We only have one Bahamas. We only have one people. And together, we the people of the Bahamas will defeat COVID-19. America united and recovered from the Great Depression. World wars were fought, the world united, and we recovered from these wars. The Gulf War came, and after the Gulf War, the United States recovered, economies recovered. 9/11 came, and after the bombing in 9/11, our economy recovered. We are rebuilding Abaco and the Grand Bahama after the most devastating hurricane that our country has ever seen, in that of Hurricane Dorian. We are a resilient people, and I am certain that we will continue to do well. The state of the nation is that we are strong. The state of the nation is that we will rebound. The state of the nation is that we will recover. I now turn to Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. This is the promise word upon which I stand." Let me repeat this. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. This is the promised word upon which I stand, the word of the living God." I admonish you, keep hope alive. A bright future awaits us. This is the promised word. Trust in the Lord. He has never let us down. I urge you to follow the established protocols. When in public, wear a mask. Wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. Keep a distance of 6 feet from others. Do not gather in large numbers or large crowds. Stay safe, my beloved people. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. God bless you. God bless you all. And may God bless this, our Commonwealth of the Bahamas.